Hi, good morning. This is Arun Shrivastava. I'm in the School of Environmental Sciences, JNU, and I welcome you all on this faculty development program. I basically work on air pollution, and in fact, I had been working on this for the last 25 years or so. Air pollution is one of the very important environmental problems. There are so many environmental problems: water pollution, soil pollution, noise pollution, etc., climate change. But air pollution is possibly one of the problems which is creating so many other problems, be it climate change, global warming, property damage, health, etc. Air pollution, as you usually people oftenly know, that it is a problem which is due to the mixing of some unwanted elements or foreign materials into the air, which is not required and which might cause various problems towards our health. Yes, indeed, this is one of the definitions or one of the explanations of air pollution. Air pollution has many other dimensions also. Some among them are very important. One of the such problems is indoor air pollution. Because whenever we speak about air pollution, we generally are concerned about the outdoor or ambient air pollution, because we think that that is only the type of air pollution, but it is not the case. Air pollution can affect so many things, can affect some of the things which we never have anticipated. So one among them is indoor air pollution. Let me tell you that indoor air pollution is many times more important and are matter of concern than that of outdoor air pollution, because we usually spend most of our time in the indoor environment than that of outdoor environment. So let us have some discussion or some information about the indoor air pollution. As the name suggests, that indoor air pollution, it means the pollution, air pollution of indoor environment is called as indoor air pollution. Now, let me share you my screen. I hope my screen is visible to everyone. So now, let me define you indoor air pollution. The presence of particulate contaminants in the indoor environment is of concern because people spend most of their time in the indoor environment, as I already said. It has been estimated in general, it is not actually hard and fast rule, but in general, people spend around 90% of their time in the indoor environment. It is an estimation, by the way, because 58% of the time they spend in their houses or homes or their residences. 32% they spend elsewhere, maybe in the offices, in the school colleges, some other indoor environment, even the transport medium, whether it is metro, trains, buses, taxis, autos, they are also a kind of confined or indoor environment. So it is been estimated generally people spend 90% of the time in the indoor environment, while only 10% of the time they used to spend in the outdoor environment. Now, if we take a hypothetical example of how the indoor environment can be contaminated, this particular picture shows a 35 cubic feet volume. 35 cubic feet is approximately all the edges are of 1 meter, I mean length, depth and width. So it is a kind of 1 cubic feet, rather you can say 35 cubic feet here is the volume in a clean environment. Although clean environment is generally not possible, it is only possible in the Antarctic region or in the Arctic region. Some places of the Arctic region, usually it's not possible anywhere in the world. So in a clean environment, in 35 cubic feet of volume, you might anticipate one particulate matter. just one particulate matter. But what happens when it is an outdoor environment? The number of particles can significantly be increased. It can be approximately 1 million. So in 35 cubic feet of volume of air, you can expect 1 million particulate matters. And what happens when the same case is with the indoor environment? In the indoor environment, this 1 million particles, which were possibly in the outdoor environment, can be up to 100 million. So now you can imagine what is the difference. But it is not always. It can be up. I mean, there is the maximum speculated value. So around 100 million particulate matters you can expect in 35 cubic feet of volume. Now, with the help of this, you can understand how sometimes the indoor environment can be dangerous, can be matter of concern, can be serious matter of concern. All right. So now the question is, if this is the case, if these much or these many particulate matters can be anticipated in the indoor environment, it's a huge difference, 100-fold difference than that of outdoor environment. But when the particles, but how the particles come and from where the particles come. So let us discuss about the sources of these indoor air particles. It could be outdoor sources, it could be indoor sources. Okay, let us discuss one by one. What are the outdoor sources? Outdoor sources could be road, soil dust. I mean, road itself is a major source of particulate contaminants, especially in the summer period when that is high windy, moisture or humidity is very, very less. The particles are less bounded to the surfaces and less bounded among themselves also. So the chances of those particles to get into the atmosphere and to get into the indoor environments is very, very much. So road and soil dust are major source. This is also, I mean, I must tell you, one of the reasons, one of the major reasons is that the roads are always busy. Vehicles, automobiles always play on the roads. So that causes the wear and tear. The particles further become finer. And once the particles become finer because of the wearing and tearing, the chances of those particles to get incorporated into the outdoors air or to continue to be suspended is much. And from there, it can easily get into the indoor environment. So road and soil dust are one of the major sources. Apart from that, automobiles, especially in the major metro cities, are one of the major concern as far as the air pollution is concerned. These automobiles emit various type of pollutants, especially the air pollutants, solid, liquid, multiphase, different type of gases pollutants, PAH, VOCs, NOx, SOx, carbon monoxide, etc. There is a huge range of pollutants that can be emanated from the automobiles or from the vehicles. As well as they also emit the solid particles, particulate matters, dusts, as well as significantly they produce the carbon particles, what we usually call them as soot particles or black carbon. This is one of the major menaces, especially in the metro cities. And these carbon particles, in due course of time, can become the part of indoor environment. Okay, so these are the major sources of the indoor air pollution. Apart from that, local burning, if some kind of local burning, although it is very less contributor in the urban environment, because we don't usually use the traditional cooking stoves, etc. Now the gas stoves, they usually emit almost negligible amount of air pollutants. So local burning, but in the rural areas, these have impact. So local burning is also one of the outdoor sources. Apart from that, industries. Some residential areas which are in the vicinity of industrial belt, they also experience a good amount of air pollution being emitted from those industries in due course of time, becoming the part of indoor environment. So these are some of the outdoor sources for the indoor environment, like road and soil dust, automobile, local burning, and industrial sector. Now, next question is, how these particles, although they are being emitted out in the outdoor environment, but how can they become the part of indoor environment? It depends upon some very important factors. One of the important factors is permeability of the structure. How the structure, how the building is permeable towards the outdoor pollution. If it is highly permeable, permeable means ventilation system, structure of the building, airflow. I mean, in what direction? Because we usually have easterly or westerly winds. So if our building structure is oriented in such a manner that the windows, etc., they are facing east or west direction and they are naturally and highly ventilated, then the chances of those outdoor pollutants which are being created in the outdoor environment with the help of this ventilation system can become the part of indoor environment. All right. So permeability of this structure is one of the important factors. The next is stability of the pollutant. As we all know that more or less all the pollutants are chemicals, some kind of molecules having some structure, chemical structure. Not necessarily they are very stable. Once they are emitted from their sources, it is not that they are there for forever in the atmosphere. They are bound to be destroyed naturally or because of some external forces present in the atmosphere or in the ambient environment. So if the pollutants are stable, anywhere from where they are coming, if they are stable, the chances of those pollutants to become the part of indoor environment is much, because they can survive for a longer duration. And in that duration, they can anyhow become the part of indoor environment. So stability of the pollutant is one of the important factors as far as entry into the indoor environment is concerned. The next one is indoor-outdoor exchange ratio. If the exchange ratio is as earlier I told, that the ventilation is one of the very important factors. If there's a good ventilation, then the outdoor-indoor exchange ratio is very big. So if the ratio is very good, then the chances of those outdoor pollutants to become the part of indoor environment is much. All right. So these are some of the important factors that they decide how the outdoor pollution can become part of indoor environment in due course of time. All right. Now the question is, are there some indoor sources too? Yes. There are in fact many more sources of indoor air pollution than that of outdoor environment. Let us discuss. One of them is chemical release from modern building and furnishing materials. Usually in the traditional houses, we have just whitewashing based on limestone or chuna, jisko hum kehte the. Simple whitewashing. But nowadays, we have so many different types of structure: wall painting, chemical, plastic painting, then polishing, then wallpaper, then etc., etc. Yes, they are beautiful. They appear to be beautiful. They are good. They are soothing, but they might pose danger too. They can be the potential source of indoor air pollution. Some of them could be even dangerous, can have serious health consequences. So chemical released from the modern, you would have heard about the VOCs. VOCs, one of the major sources of the VOCs are paints, the modern paints. are the policies, polishing of furniture, polishing of the building, polishing of the indoor environment, indoor rooms, indoor walls. So VOC is the result of modern building material. Next, combustion of gas, combustion gases from the fireplace and the kitchen. If any kind of combustion is being taking place in the indoor environment or in the kitchen environment, then that in due course of time becomes a part of indoor environment. The next one is chemical fumes from paints and solvents. Any kind of paint and solvent, as already said, they are potential source of indoor environment. Then the biological pollutants, molds and bacteria, if they are seepages, which in due course of time might be the hosting ground for the molds, bacteria, or fungi, these can broke down, or these can, their spores, etc., can be released into indoor environment. So they become one of the major sources of indoor environment, one of the major indoor sources of the indoor environment. Next one is chemicals from cleaning products. You wash during cleaning of the floors or walls or furniture, etc. People use many different type of chemicals that, yes, it will clean to a extent of shining like this, shining like gold, etc. But yes, these cleaning agents might be good. They might give good shine. They might be absolutely uh, best cleaners, devoid of any kind of bacteria, fungi. It might kill. But yes, they can release some kind of chemicals which can act as chemical air pollutants. Okay. Further, there's some more in the category of indoor sources, cigarette smoke. Many times you smoke in the indoor environment, the particulate matters or the pollutants or the toxic agents which are released from the cigarette smoke are there to sustain in the indoor environment for a very longer period of time. You might go, but the people who live in that environment might be exposed to those pollutants generated from the cigarette smoke. So these are also cigarette is also one of the major sources of indoor air pollution. Animal hair and dander. If you have some animal, then its droppings, its etc., droppings, skin shedding, etc., might be one of the major types of indoor air pollutants. Then carbon monoxide and fumes from attached garage. Many times, not in India, by the way, but in Western country, people have their inbuilt garages. They can directly go to the garage and the shutter gets down, it is all automatically closed, and they have another exit which goes from their garage directly to their houses or to their living area. But for even very shorter period of time, the exhaust pipe of the motor vehicles emit carbon monoxide. They might be confined in that garage, and if the exit door is open, it can be the part of living area. So the garages, etc., also, although we are fortunate that this is not the case with Indian residences. The next one is gases, including radon seeping through foundation. We used heavy foundation, many concrete, etc. Concrete, especially granite, etc., they contain some amount of radon. In due course of time, they are being released in the form of gases, and that are the part of indoor air pollution. Then again, radon is used also as insulating material. If you have some excellent air conditioning system, then it requires a very nice insulation system. And that insulation system might release some amount of radon. There's a kind of indoor air pollution. Then re-entrainment of the existing particles. Those particles, especially the solid particles, which are in due course of time shuttled to the ground, but next day brooming, cleaning, walking, etc., might lead to the re-entrainment of these particles into the atmosphere. And if they are reduced in the sizes, when they fell on the ground, they were bigger, but when they went through the wearing and tearing processes, they become smaller, and once they are uplifted, they are there to continuous suspension, and they are suspended for a very longer period time, and thus the chances of those particles getting inhaled is very much. All right, so these were some of the indoor sources as well as the outdoor sources. Now let us have some information about the site distribution of the pollutants, especially the particulate matters which can be present into the indoor environment. There are a range of particles. I mean, if you see here in this particular picture, as far as the site distribution is concerned, the smallest could be 0.0001 micron. Micron itself is 10 to the minus 6 meter. So now you can imagine how small it could be. So 0.001 micron to up to 1000 micron means 1 millimeter. So there are range of particles, and so it contains a different variety of air pollutants, especially the indoor air pollutants. The smallest is ozone, which are of 0.0001 micron. Then volatile organic compounds, they are the smallest one. They are although gaseous pollutants. Then environmental tobacco smoke, soot, atmospheric dust, viruses, they are in the middle range, 0.001 micron to approximately 1 micron. Then further, the bigger one could be bacteria, oil smoke, sinking spores, or pollen. They could be of up to 100 micron. But there could be even 1 millimeter particles. But chances of those particles which are of 1 millimeter to continues in suspension is very, very less. Once they are uplifted, in some time, they are bound to get settled to the floor. All right. So there is a huge variety of particles as far as their chemistry is concerned. There's huge variety of particles as far as their sizes are concerned. Okay. So next one is why we talked about the size distribution. Why size is of concern? Because size actually decides how deep we can be threatened towards these particulate matters. If they're bigger in sizes, the chances of those particles, although we will inhale, all the particles are bound to be inhaled in our body system. But if they're bigger, the particles could easily get out of our body because of the immune response. But they are lesser in sizes, smaller in sizes. If they are very, very fine in sizes, the chances of those particles to penetrate deep inside our body is very, very much. And from there, it is almost impossible for those particles to get out. All right, if you see this picture, you can see easily that the red one, the red canal starting from the mouth, is called as respiratory tract system. So those particles which are of larger sizes, they are limited up to this limit only. I mean, up to the respiratory tract system. From the mouth towards the lungs, in between, the respiratory system is called as middle respiratory system. So the particles which are of moderate size, they are lodged into that region, but from there, by various mechanisms, be it coughing, be it sneezing, and by other many mechanisms, immune response, I can say, these particles easily come out. But once they reach into the lungs or the deeper portion, like alveoli, etc., excuse me, the green part you see in the lungs, they are called as alveoli, the air sac. If these particles reach there, they are bound to be absorbed into the tissues or into the bloodstream. And from there, it is almost impossible for these particles to come out. On the left-hand side, you see various consequences of these air pollutants present in the indoor environment. It can cause headache, dizziness, irritated mucous membranes, increased risk of getting a cold, allergies, asthma, lungs disease, skin irritation, etc. Okay, it might be further more clear in the next or in this picture. If you see, the upper respiratory tract accepts only up to 10 micron particle, and they can easily get out. Middle respiratory system, the particles between 10 to 2 micron can be lodged or can be deposited. From there also, these particles sooner or later can come out. But further finer particles, 2.5 micron, goes to the deeper portion of the respiratory system, that is lungs. All right, so it can easily be clear from this picture that why we are much concerned about the size distribution of the particulate matter. Okay, so far we discussed about the sources of particles and how it can be lodged into our body system. Now the type of sources. The sources could be biological, sources could be non-biological. Now, if we discuss about the non-biological sources, let us discuss one by one. There are a range of particulate matters that could be present in the indoor environment. Number one is asbestos. You won't find this particular air pollutant usually in the outdoor environment. This is the special feature of indoor environment. What is asbestos? Asbestos are a group of impure hydrated. It is basically a mineral. It's a group of impure hydrated silicate minerals which occur in various forms. It is particularly used for insulation of electrical and thermal materials and is heavily utilized in pipes and boilers, cement board, thermal tiles, paint, and wallpaper, which are commonly being used in the modern days buildings. So the chances of occurrence of this particular pollutant, that is asbestos, is very, very much. Acute exposure to asbestos can cause skin irritation, lungs cancer, etc. The next one is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide within limit is never a pollutant, but once it crosses the limit, it can cause some kind of suffocation. Although it doesn't usually cause acute or chronic health issues, but yes, it is a kind of asphyxiating agent. Carbon dioxide is colorless, odorless gas. It is a combustion product of gas, kerosene, and wood or coal-fueled appliances. Typical indoor CO2 concentrations range between 700 to 2000 ppm, but can exceed even 3000 ppm level. As already said, it is an asphyxiating agent and it causes some kind of respiratory irritation. The next one is carbon monoxide. It's a very toxic agent. Carbon monoxide is a toxic colorless gas produced by the incomplete combustion of fuel. Water heaters, gas or coal heaters, and gas stove are all indoor sources of carbon monoxide. It has high affinity for the oxygen carrying proteins such as hemoglobin and myoglobin, which lowers the oxygen carrying capacity of blood. What happens? Many times carbon monoxide is emitted in the atmosphere, and since it is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas, we will not understand its presence and we will continue to inhale. And what does it do? It actually has a very high affinity towards some of the oxygen binding proteins like hemoglobin and myoglobin. So what does it do? It actually bonds itself to hemoglobin or myoglobin. And once it bonds itself, oxygen will not be able to enter to that hemoglobin or myoglobin. So by binding itself to the blood, it actually stops the binding character of oxygen to the blood. And that actually leads to the suffocation or asphyxiation. And this is why many times you would have heard someone was in the car, AC turned on, windows, etc., closed completely, and he was found dead next morning or so. Or the same thing happens in the houses. Because people don't realize the carbon monoxide is being built up. Its level is exceeding and they continue inhaling it. And by inhaling it, they reduce the trend, they reduce the character of oxygen inhalation. And once or when you realize this, that this has happened, it's already very late. So this is a very dangerous indoor air pollutant, carbon monoxide. The next one is formaldehyde. Formaldehyde, it is a colorless, volatile organic compound with pungent odor. The primary source of formaldehyde are building materials such as board, plywood, resins, adhesives, and carpeting. A range of acute health impacts of formaldehyde have provided in the next. Formaldehyde is a kind of VOC, volatile organic compounds. What is volatile organic? Those organic compounds which are highly volatile in nature, which can be converted into the gaseous form at a very normal temperature. They are usually in the liquid form. They are organic compounds in liquid form, but at room temperature or slightly higher temperature, especially in the summer, etc., they are easily evaporated and they come into the form of gas. So formaldehyde is one of the major air pollutant. It is widely used as varnishing or polishing material on furniture, wooden items. To shine it, people polish it more and more. But when the temperature rises, the polishes, the VOCs attached with the polishes get evaporated and becomes the part of indoor environment. This causes serious allergy and serious health impacts, especially the respiratory health impacts. Let us see what are the different outcomes or different health consequences of formaldehyde or VOCs. If it is less than 0.05 ppm, usually it doesn't cause any problem. When it is 0.05 to 1.5 ppm, it might cause some kind of neurophysiological effect, some kind of irritation or nausea, very little. If it is 0.05 to 1, it is actually the threshold limit. Because you cannot smell if it is lower than this, but once it is more than this, you can smell it. And if its range is 0.01 to 2.0, it might cause some kind of irritation to the eyes. If it is up to 25 ppm, it causes serious irritation to the upper airways. I already showed in the picture. If it is up to 30 ppm, it causes upper as well as lower airways irritation. Also, the pulmonary effect, maybe coughing, some kind of sneezing, etc., etc. Sometimes it could be acute also. If it is between 50 to 100 ppm, it causes pulmonary edema. Pulmonary edema. It is a serious health effect, serious lungs issue, inflammation as well as pneumonia. If it is more than 100 ppm, it might cause coma and death. So now you can understand that VOCs are formaldehyde, one of the type of indoor air pollutants, how serious it can be towards our health. All right. The next one is nitrogen dioxide, what we usually call them as oxides of nitrogen. They are combinedly known as NOx. So there are three types of oxides of nitrogen which are considered as air pollutants: NO, NO2, and N2O. So nitrogen dioxide is a water-soluble red and brown gas with pungent acrid odor. It is formed from the combustion of nitrogen and by the combination of nitrogen and oxygen. During combustion, at higher temperature. Nitrogen dioxide is an oxidizing agent that can be very irritating to the mucous membrane of the lungs. It is highly soluble in water and thought to combine with water in the lungs to form nitric acid. Many times, you would have experienced that you roamed around in some heavy polluted area or traffic area, and after coming back to your residences, you feel some kind of irritation, gale ki jo problem hoti. That is because of this one. Because once nitrogen dioxide reaches to your upper respiratory system, the moist area of which contains water of the upper respiratory system, it actually forms nitric acid. It's a kind of acid, HNO3. Although it is mild, it is not concentrated. It doesn't cause much threat, but yes, it causes serious irritation, and that is why we are advised for gargle, etc., so that these things can come out of our upper respiratory system. But once it reaches to the lower respiratory system, it cannot come that easily. The next one is sulfur dioxide, more or less the same kind of effect. It also causes, the fortunate part is the sulfur dioxide is not vehicular borne pollutant. It is generated by power plants, thermal power plants, especially the coal-fired thermal power plant. Where the coal burning takes place, the chances of sulfur dioxide will be low, and the effects are same. Sulfur dioxide, again, once it is inhaled, it combines with the water or the moisture of the upper respiratory system to form an acid called as H2SO4 or sulfuric acid, although again it is mild, and the same irritation to the upper respiratory system it might cause. The next one is radon. It's a building material and it is a very dangerous kind of air pollutant. It is naturally found, it is artificially found in the building materials, in the building blocks, in the cement, in the concretes, in the granites, etc. The next one of the very important indoor air pollutants is respirable particulate matters, which are also called as RSPM. Smoke from burning of woods and fossil fuels produce an extremely complex mixture of pollutants, both in physical and chemical characteristics and toxicological properties. One of the primary constituents of the smoke are respirable particles. These are aerosols that are of a small enough diameter to enter and remain in the lungs. Many are around 6 to 7 micrometers or less in diameter. The particulate matter comprised a mixture of organic and inorganic substances, including aromatic hydrocarbon compounds, trace metals, nitrates, and sulfate. These can cause severe respiratory illnesses. In the next picture, you will see how problematic it could be. So it has a huge range of various types of air pollutants. Again, in continuation of that, smoking of a cigarette can lead to considerably elevated levels of airborne particles. Once inhaled, they lead to remain in the lungs, where they may eventually cause cancer. That's why cigarette is not advisable. Tobacco smoke is an aerosol containing several thousand substances, not 1, 2, 3, or 10. A cigarette smoke can contain several thousands of substances that are distributed as particles, vapors, and gases. It occurs in all the phases. Also, they are combinedly called as environmental tobacco smoke or ETS. Environmental tobacco smoke is possibly one of the most important outdoor air pollutants in homes and offices. The most common acute health effects associated with exposure to ETS are eye, nose, and throat. It irritates these body organs. It severely irritates these body organs. Various substances emitted from one cigarette smoke are provided in the next table. You can see here, these are range of different type of substances that can be produced from a cigarette. It produces maximally carbon monoxide. Depending upon the type of cigarette or the nature of cigarette, the range is highly variable. It could be from 10,000 to 80,000 micrograms. The carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, which is maximally present. The next one is carbon monoxide, which is 500 to 26,000 micrograms. Next one is oxides of nitrogen, which are 16 to 600 micrograms. Then ammonia, 10 to 130 micrograms. Hydrogen cyanide, 280 to 550 micrograms. Formaldehyde, 20 to 90 micrograms. Acrolein, 10 to 140 micrograms. And nitrosodimethylamide, 0.004. It is a very serious organic air pollutant. It is present usually in the range 0.004 to 0.18 micrograms. The next one is nicotine. That is 60 to 2,300 micrograms. The list is not yet finished. The next one is total particulate. It could be 100 to 40,000, depending on the type of filter that cigarette contains. Phenol, 20 to 150 micrograms. Cathecol, 40 to 280 micrograms. Naphthalene, 2.8 micrograms. Benzopyrene, aniline, 2-naphthylamine, 4-aminobiphenyl, and nitrosonoreconotine. So these are different type of air pollutants or toxic substances that can be emitted from a single cigarette. Here you can see how what type of different substances are emitted from a cigarette and to what they are compared with. Like cadmium, it is emitted from cigarette, and they are utilized in the manufacturing of rechargeable batteries. Stearic acid, which are used in candle wax. Hexamine, which are used in lighters. Toluene, it's a kind of industrial solvent. Nicotine, which is a kind of insecticide. Ammonia, which are used as toilet cleaner. Methanol, which are used in rocket fuel. Carbon monoxide. Then arsenic, which is a known poison. Methane, which are emitted from the sewer gas. Acetic acid, which is a vinegar. Butane, which is used as lighter fuel. So more or less all these products of a cigarette, except acetic acid, are dangerous, have serious health consequences. And they are not serious health consequences towards the smoker, but also towards those who are passive smokers or who are present in the indoor environment. Many times these pollutants sustain for a very longer period of time. The guy who has smoked, he'll go, but its effect will remain for a few days. It might remain for a few days, a few hours. So how cigarette is injurious to our health? Okay, the next class of pollutants is volatile organic compounds. They are also called as VOCs or volatile organic compounds. Volatile organic compounds are organic compounds having a boiling point that ranges between 50 to 260 degrees Celsius. 50 is very normal. It might be achieved in the summer period. So those volatile organic compounds which are in the liquid form, they might easily be converted into the gaseous form and become the part of indoor environment. Exposure to VOCs can result in both acute and chronic health effects. Concentration of VOCs found in the indoor air are provided in the following table. Okay, let us see. This is one of the researches. This is not actually a thumb rule, but it is the result of one of the researches. Benzene, the different type of VOCs that can be expected in the indoor environment are benzene, toluene, entacane, limonene, oxylene, trichloroethene, dichlorobenzene, trimethylbenzene, M and P xylene, undecane, trimethylbenzene, dichloroethane, trichloroethane. So there is a range of VOCs which you might anticipate in the indoor environment. Okay, so far we discussed or we talked about the chemical type of indoor air pollutants. It is not only the chemical type of air pollutants are present in the indoor environment, there could be biological indoor air pollutants also. Let us discuss that. Indoor biological allergens, one of the class of biological pollutants in the indoor environment. The best source of indoor allergens is the house dust mite. In temperate climates, many species of mites can be found. The main allergens are dust mites, cat, dog, rodent, cockroaches, fungi. Asthma, etc., are the main health implications. The next class of indoor air pollutants, indoor biological air pollutants, are fungi, bacteria, and viruses. Together, I am discussing more. A large number of species and fungi, a large number of species of fungi and bacteria are found in the indoor environment, where they are associated with the presence of organic matters. They are stuck on the organic particles and they are inhaled. They can be lodged into the respiratory system, where they easily find conducive material to multiply, to grow, to flourish, which are called as media also for them. But the media is inside, and there they grow and they cause some kind of respiratory syndrome, respiratory problems. Here, there's a very good picture of dust mites. You can see it is a microscopic picture. So you can see the dust mites as well as the dust mite faces. Both are allergens. Both are injurious to our health. Both causes respiratory issues. Sometimes they can cause acute as well as chronic, and long-term as well as short-term. Okay, here the pictures of pollen, fungal spores, bacteria, and viruses are given. Okay, let us, so I think now I spoke about the indoor air pollutants, how it is generated, what could lead to the indoor air pollution, what are the different sources, what are the type of sources of indoor air pollutants. Let us have some idea of some of the important salient features of the indoor environment or indoor air pollution. One of the major salient features, one of the very important salient features is sick building syndrome, or we call as sick building syndrome. We call it as SBS. Any combination of symptom you feel after entering a polluted building. Many times what has happened? You are very normal, you are absolutely fine. But as soon as you entered into a building environment, you start feeling uncomfortable. You start feeling like going away from that place. It is actually a combination of symptoms that you start, this combination of problems that you start feeling in that indoor environment. These symptoms tend to disappear after leaving the building. The symptoms develop within a seconds or minutes of entering into the building, but may take hours or days to disappear after leaving the building. It takes time after leaving. Usually it might take time to disappear after leaving the building, but you developed the symptom immediately upon entering into the building. This is called as sick building syndrome. People tolerate problems less when it is hot, humid, or noisy. But it is not the case with SBS. This is not the condition of sick building syndrome. These problems like hot, humidity, noise, etc., they start inducing some kind of intolerance into our body system. But this is actually not the SBS. SBS is mainly because of the indoor air pollution. And let me tell you that this SBS cannot happen with everyone. If you go 2 or 3 persons, it might happen with only 1 person or 2 persons. Because these 2 persons could be intensively susceptible towards those chemicals which are present in the indoor environment, not the other one. And that is why it is called a sick building syndrome for those individual persons. The SBS is primarily caused by the combined action of the many chemicals released into the air by different processes. It is actually a combined effect. That is why it might affect someone, it might not affect someone. All right. So let us have idea about what are the symptoms of sick building syndromes. It could cause headache or nausea. It could cause nasal congestion, runny, stuffy nose, sinus congestion, sneezing, etc. Chest congestion like wheezing, shortness of breath, chest tightness, etc. Eye problems like dry, itching, tearing, or sore eyes, blur vision, burning eyes, problem with contact lenses. Throat problems like sore throat, hoarseness, dry throat, etc. Fatigue, unusual tiredness, sleepiness, or drowsiness. These are some of the common features of sick building syndrome. I again repeat that this SBS not a blanket type of problem. It can be associated only with few individuals. Okay, features are incontinuation, chills and fever, muscular pain, aching of muscles or joints, pain or stiffness in upper back, pain or stiffness in lower back, pain or numbness in shoulder or neck, pain or numbness in hands and wrists. Then neurological symptoms, difficulty in remembering or concentrating, feeling depressed, tensed or nervousness. The next one is dizziness. And the last one is dry skin. So these are some of the common features, or what we usually call them as salient features of the sick building syndrome, or SBS. Okay, the next feature is multiple chemical sensitivity, or MCS. Some people have developed severe intolerance to a chemical which they previously tolerated well. When people develop a rash or exposure to a chemical, we usually say they have a kind of allergy. When people develop wheezing on exposure to a chemical, we usually say they have a form of asthma or allergy to that chemical. When people develop headache or fatigue or confusion or other unbearable symptoms on exposure to a mixture of chemicals, we say they have multiple chemical sensitivity, or MCS. So what does it actually mean? It is might possible that an indoor environment contains number of chemical air pollutants. It is also possible that a person can tolerate one chemical, let it be A. He can also tolerate a chemical B separately. He can also tolerate a chemical C separately. But it is might possible that when these three chemicals together, A plus B plus C, if that person is exposed to, he'll not be able to tolerate. He might have tolerated it separately, one by one, but combinedly, he cannot tolerate. That is why it is called as multiple chemical sensitivity, and it is a feature of indoor environment. Okay, the next one is personal cloud effect. Personal cloud effect. Many times what happens, you must have experienced that this particular area is highly polluted, that particular area is highly polluted. So it means that the pollution level is very, very high than the normal or the prescribed limit into that particular area. But even this effect can be in the indoor environment. Sometimes the air pollution is so much in any specific indoor environment. What you can never expect that level of pollution even in the outdoor environment. And if you are in that particular environment, in that particular indoor environment, you will be exposed to that high or that elevated level of air pollution. That is why it is called as personal cloud effect, because you get huge amount of air pollution in a very short time period, because you actually have become confined to that particular air pollutant. All right. So this is called as personal cloud effect. I'll show you one of the case studies that actually I have carried out, and it was also published in one of the works. We tried to understand the outdoor and indoor air pollution level of different parts of Delhi. So we did sampling more or less covering entire Delhi. You can see the picture here. We have almost covered the entire Delhi. The purple color represents the concentration of, this is actually pertaining to the particulate matter. So the purple color represents the particulate matters in the indoor environment, and the red or maroon color represents the particulate matter concentration in the outdoor environment. You can see invariably indoor environments particulate matter concentration is not less than that of outdoor environment. In many cases, it is even more than that of outdoor environment. So we can easily conclude that indoor is not very clean, especially if you live in the polluted area. That area's indoor environment is also highly polluted. This was published in one of the very good journals of that time. So, and we also try to understand how the different type of pollutants can reach in the indoor environment. For that, we did some correlation studies, and we found that the correlation between outdoor suspended particulate matters and indoor suspended particulate matters is very good. It means that whatever the indoor air pollutant, whatever the SPM in the indoor environment are present, it could be due to the outdoor environment, because it has a very good correlation. Similarly, copper, chromium, cadmium, and nickel also had good correlation, while magnesium, iron, manganese, and lead have slightly lesser, or we can say the average correlation, while calcium had no correlation. It means indoor itself had a source of calcium. So whatever the calcium we are observing in the indoor environment, that is mainly because of the outdoor environment. That is mainly because of the indoor environment itself. It is because we still have white walls based on calcium carbonate. So we usually have a good source of calcium in the indoor environment. Okay, so I think I've finished with my work. In this picture, you can see some of the different types of indoor air pollutants. A is a kind of soot particle. This is a microscopic image. Is photographed by an electron microscope, which magnifies in the magnitude of 1,000 times or lakhs of times. So highly magnified images these are. So the top one at the left hand corner shows the soot particle, while the top right hand corner picture image shows some kind of organic. The middle one left is a soot, combination of soot and silicate. Again, it is the right one is lesser magnified. It is again soot and silicate, while the bottom's left hand corner image shows a kind of biological material present, while the right hand's bottom corner's image shows the metallic particle, presence of metallic particle. So we have a range of, or we have a variety of particles present in the indoor environment. This is actually proved by this. This actually can be proved by this image also. So now I think I'm done with my presentation. You would have really enjoyed it. You would have loved it. And I think you would have learned a lot by this, because a new kind of um, topic we discussed, the indoor air pollution. I, I think that some of you may not have even heard what is indoor air pollution, because people usually are concerned about the outdoor air pollution. I think you had learned, and now it will give you a good lesson to understand the indoor air quality. It has, since it has severe health implications, so you people might be very, very careful as far as your indoor environment is concerned, your indoor conditions like ventilation, etc., are concerned, so that the indoor environment should be cleaner, because you'll have to spend a very good amount of time than that of outdoor environment. So it should be much, much cleaner than that of outdoor environment. So with this, I finish my presentation. Thank you very, very much. And if you have any questions, you might ask me. I am in JNU. You can easily get my mobile number or phone number, email address from the JNU's website. You can get in touch with me. You can post your question, or you can even call me. Or if you have some kind of suggestions also, you can get in touch with me. So thank you very, very much. Thank you.